You may recall that last year I formed a criminal justice task force and invited people from all broad ranges of different professions that touch the criminal justice system in our state, whether it might be our lawyers, our doctors, our judges, those who are in the corrections profession, mental health profession, substance abuse, domestic violence, victims' rights, mental health, all the different broad range of people who touch our criminal justice system, to find a way that we could, first of all, keep our communities safe. We always care about public safety, to be able to address how we can help people who have substance abuse issues in our state, which we have a lot of people with substance abuse issues, to also find a way to address the skyrocketing number of people who are incarcerated in our state, and certainly the effect that that has upon our state budget and the cost to our state system. And so we brought together these various experts to have a discussion, to work with the Pew Foundation and the Charitable Trust Foundation and the Criminal Justice Action Network, to find very specific data-driven, policy-oriented solutions to some of our challenges as a state with our criminal justice system. We all know that if we don't address the trajectory of our criminal justice system right now in our state, that our Director of Corrections, Director Albaugh, has projected that it's going to cost the state of Oklahoma about $2 billion extra dollars, and that we may need to build up to 3 new prisons in our state. But as I grew into my job as governor and not only started looking at our criminal justice issues of our state, but also focusing on the number of children who didn't have a parent at home, looking at the number of children who are in our foster care system and the numbers of children who were in state custody, or even considering our poverty rates, people who are unemployed, our challenges with some of our students in our school systems themselves who have a parent that might be incarcerated. It really hit home with me that we need to have a broad range look of all the challenges that we have in our criminal justice system. And so we were able to draft many great pieces of legislation this session, and we still have 12 bills that are alive throughout the legislature. And once again, our goal was to keep our communities safe, hold our offenders accountable, and to make sure that we have data-driven results to be able to address our criminal justice challenges in the state of Oklahoma. We also know that on the path that we're on, that if we can pass the legislation that's been proposed this legislative session, that we will be able to divert about 25% of our population prison growth, which is extremely important also, and actually reduce the overall prison population by 3% over the next decade, which once again will save us about $2 billion as a state. So I have some just interesting statistics I would like to just share with you about children in particular who have parents that have entered into the criminal justice system in our state. We know that statistics show that at least 1 in 10 children in our state will have a parent that could be in custody in our corrections facility. We know that Oklahoma is one of 8 states with 10% or more kids who fit into this category. So about 10% of our children have a parent who are incarcerated or will be. We also know that children who have an incarcerated parent are 7 times more likely as an adult to end up in the system. And we also know that you can follow through generations of ages of families, that it can be a life cycle unless we break the cycle of generational incarceration in our state. We know that a high number of our offenders who are in our criminal justice system have substance abuse or mental health issues that affect them entering into the system. And we know there are great proven policies and initiatives that we can help break the cycle of addiction if we get help early on, and if we put the resources into the system early on to be able to help with substance abuse and also mental health issues itself. It's also a fact that Oklahoma is the #1 state in the nation when it comes to incarcerating women. And you've heard me teasingly say that our Oklahoma women aren't meaner than other women in other states, but we do have a lot of substance abuse issues and other issues that lead to other criminal actions in our state. We know that Oklahoma is second in the nation when it comes to incarcerating men in the nation, and so that's also a big problem. We have made some progress over the past couple of years. We had 2 state questions that were on the ballot this past summer that the people of Oklahoma overwhelmingly supported. Last year we passed 4 criminal justice reform bills, and of course, as I mentioned, this year we have 12 bills that are still alive and are going through the process. So we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but I think for probably one of the first times in our state's history over the last couple of years, we have really taken a serious look, a serious effort to look at why do people end up incarcerated in our state, how can we help them early on to divert them from going into the system, and what can we do when they come out of the system to be more successful so they don't recidivate and go back into the system itself, and then what can we do with the children who are likely statistically to end up in that generational curse of following in their parents' or their grandparents' footsteps and getting into the state system in many different ways, whether it's incarceration, whether it's poverty, whether it's not finishing school, whether it's ending up on drugs or substance abuse themselves. What can we do to stop this cycle with our children? And of course, that's what this particular school is about, Robin, and we appreciate you and all the people who have worked so very, very hard on this. So we have various policy initiatives going through to improve public safety by reducing recidivism and funding substance abuse and mental health treatment in our state. We know that we have to reduce the trajectory of our state in incarcerating people, but yet we always put public safety first and making sure that the people we're scared of or people who might harm us are kept locked up until they're healthier or better or they're served their time. But we also know that financially it hits our state in a big way when we don't give them the help that they need to keep them from going into this. So I am very, very proud of the data-driven policies and pieces of legislation that we've been able to put forth for this legislative session to make our criminal justice system more efficient while keeping our public safe and also by helping us save money. And so I'd like to introduce a couple of people that have joined us here today to talk about the criminal justice system and some of the effects that they have seen. And they were both on my council as we began our criminal justice study this past year, and we welcome you to join us. And I want to ask Angela Beatty, who is with Beatty, I said it right, okay, with the YMCA, who is YW, I know that, YW, yes, YWCA, who has worked extensively with domestic violence situations that various victims get themselves involved in. But Angela, I'd like for you to come forward, and then I'd also like to ask Director Scully if he will join us also to talk about some of the effects he sees with substance abuse issues. Angela?
So my name is Angela Beatty. I'm the Senior Director of Domestic Violence Victim Services at the YWCA, and we're thrilled to be here to talk about justice reform. It's something that as an agency we're extremely passionate about. We're thankful to be here with the students of the Little Light Christian School and with the governor. So this year we're focusing on themes related to strength and resilience and justice. They're things that our clients know all too well, things that these students have experienced and know all too well, things that they deserve. Working with victims of trauma, we know all too well the lasting effects that trauma can have. Many, if not most, of incarcerated women have experienced serious crime themselves. They've been victims of physical assault, victims of sexual assault, of domestic violence, and stalking. And we understand the lasting effects that trauma can have on them. These women need support services. They need trauma-informed care. They need services that will help them get back on their feet. They need help getting back to a place that they can take care of their children, to join the workforce and become stable members of society and the community. As substance abuse issues touch more people in our communities, we need the resources to focus on treatment and prevention for recurring violence and trauma that ensnare victims of domestic violence and substance abuse and mental illness, often leading their own criminalization, that often lead to their own criminalization and incarceration. So victim advocates at our agency were very instrumental on the governor's task force for justice reform. And our priorities include in creating a better correctional response for victims of violence and supervision and accountability for perpetrators. I'm encouraged that if enacted, this package of reforms will reduce victimization, redirect resources to make our community safer, and return parents to their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, I'm John Scully. I'm the director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics. Good morning, children. As the director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics, my top priority is keeping the public safe through smart and effective policing. That means breaking the intergenerational cycle of addiction, violence, and crime. We need to give all Oklahoma children, and especially children of incarcerated parents, a strong foundation on which to build productive and healthy lives, with which the Little Christian School is doing an excellent job of. We also need to make sure that our criminal justice system protects the families in our communities, using incarceration wisely so families are strengthened and not separated. When appropriate, we need to involve our criminal justice system in our efforts to rehabilitate, treat, and support justice-involved parents so they can become positive, contributing members of their communities and anchors for their families. As a member of the Governor's Justice Reform Task Force, I work to put forward recommendations that protect public safety and support victims of crime while getting better outcomes for these children and their families. These children need their parents, and their parents will need all the assistance they can get when they are able to return to society. As a leader of the law enforcement community tasked with protecting our citizens, it's vital that we especially strive to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Director, and thank you, Angela, for all that the YWCA does for our state. And as you can see, in talking to these children a few moments ago, they have big dreams and big hope. And they need to be able to be in a position to be able to fulfill those dreams and achieve their own success in life, no matter what circumstances they come from. And that is what we're here today to talk about, is there's a future and hope for these children too. And there are successful programs, and there are ways that we can help create a system that works to keep the public safe, but also helps people get back on their feet once they go through something that causes them to get into the system. So we appreciate the Little House Christian Church. Did I say that right? Little Light. I keep wanting to say Little Lighthouse. Little Light.
Yes.
Little Light Christian Church. Christian School. There you go. All right. We appreciate all of you guys being here today, and thank you for what you do at the school. And Robin, thank you for starting it. We appreciate you. Anybody have any questions they want to ask about the school or anything else? Oh yes, that's right. I forgot about that. They've got a song that they want to sing to me. It's their creed of their school.
Now we will recite the Little Light Christian School Creed. I am a Little Light Christian School student. I have great expectations for myself. I accept the challenge to become the best that I can be. Yesterday